Hey, Katie Boo. Hey, girl. How be you? Or I guess should I say, hey, Katie Boo. Hey, girl. Hey, how you doing, girl? Hey. Oh, I haven't seen you in a minute. I heard you moved to Chicago. Is that a New York accent? I don't know. Close enough. Anyway, and I don't think Chicagians have an accent. It's kind of funny, New York, they got an accent, and then there's Boston. I don't know if I could do a Boston accent. But it's a little bit different. It's similar but different. Kind of like Scottish is similar to Irish, but Scottish is a little bit deeper. What have you. I'm Scottish on my granddad's side. His last name is distinctly Scottish. They got like a crest. Because if you trace it back, he was, not me, but that bloodline or whatever was related to the king, the Bruce. So, and I guess before that, I guess they traced it even farther. They hail from Vikings. So, okay. And on my dad's side, all I know is like Danish, Denmark. What they do during the war. They surrendered as soon as the Germans walked in. Oh, then I don't associate with the Denmarkians. Wooden shoes and windmills. I don't know what I'm speaking now, but nah. Anyway. And as far as here and now, let's see. I never met my granddad on my dad's side because he died in a motorcycle accident when my dad was 16. Hit a deer. But I hear he was a swell guy. And when my granddad on my mom's side passed away, I mean, people were crying at the funeral, like my uncle. Gave a little speech and teared up. So, anyway, I was on the road. I wasn't there. I could have made an effort to get back, but I missed my granddad's. No, I was in fucking rehab, yo. Or what was the deal? I don't know, but it wasn't no big deal. And I know he wouldn't care. Everybody knows how I am. Like my sister's wedding, for example. I could have made the effort to be there, but nah. So, nobody cares. I'm the quote-unquote black sheep of the family. Like I said, even for family functions and stuff, I show up for an hour or two tops, and then I bounce. I'm out of there. So, if they do shit, it's like, nah, I don't care. Yeah. My nephew's hockey games, yeah, that came and went. I was gonna do land drills with him and whatnot. I don't care. And my brother-in-law is too much of a pain in the ass to deal with. I don't care. Fuck it. He's 14 now, I'm not like this super cool dude anymore, which I knew would happen, I mean, that's to be expected. My other two, like the youngest one, he's still like, hey, this, that, and the other. The middle one is kind of like quiet, he kind of keeps to himself, but, he's just, but, the oldest one, he's 14 now, so it's kind of like, I'm just Uncle Superman now. It's not, hey, Uncle Superman, I want to show you something, it's just sort of like, hey, Uncle Superman, So, whatever. I guess I'm a bad uncle. But, when they go up to the cabin and stuff, I've done that. They've got a condo now. Did I mention that? My dad, he's gonna like rent it out. It's a little farther up there. It's actually more deeper in the mountains. Did I mention this? There's a ski slope. It's basically in a ski resort. So you can I've never been there. I think he's gonna go there this weekend, maybe. So if I was worth a shit, I'd go too. But no, man, that'll eat up my whole weekend. I'm unemployed, man. I value my weekends. I'm just laughing. I've got such a pathetic, worthless, meager life. But I wouldn't trade it for nothing. You know, I wouldn't trade being me for nothing. You know, and I'm sure other, that's just, it is what it is. You know, other people would probably look at my life and be like, no, you have no friends. You know, you do this YouTube thing, which is pathetic. These audio presentations. You drink too much, and your idea of a good time is just to do absolutely nothing and just watch the world and life go by. Yeah. So, and you say, oh, it's my peace, my serenity, and that it's like, no, you're just a loser. Boo. Well, I'll tell you what. This loser won't bother you, and you don't bother this loser, and we can all just get along. And it's like, well, that works on my side of the aisle. That generally doesn't work on the other side. People won't just let things be. But anyway, like I said, the emptiest vessels will make the most noise, and in a room full of 10 people, there's going to be 2 or 3, empty vessels. So as I said, people are generally good and not complete idiots, but like I said, they're all still normies and conformies and all that, but I'm not vouching for humanity, but they're not the person who's chewing their gum like a fucking animal, at the DMV, that piece of shit, and just there's different levels of it. There's Karens and stuff, and the stuff you see on YouTube videos. That one chick. Who the hell was it? Was it Mr. Pellet, or maybe it was Asmin the Gold? There's this chick. You're like, are you ice? Are you? He's like, nah, I'm a content creator, and just a buck for a cuck. A buck for a cuck. This is a grown ass fucking human being. Female of the human species. She could very well be like your accountant, or somebody, some sort of receptionist at, some sort of office, and, she just doesn't like you, and she just conveniently forgets to press enter or save, on something, and, they're cowards, they're weasels, and it's just, they are, a disease. So... but like I said, generally, the majority of people that you meet on a day-to-day basis are going to be all right, But like I said, you encounter so many people, it's easy to think that the world is full of pieces of shit. It's not full of stellar people, upstanding, people. It's just full of, cogs and NPCs, as it's called. That's generally what the world is. But there's nothing really wrong with an NPC, in my opinion. But, the Bens and Bryans of the world, the Karens and the Kyles of the world, they're not non-political characters. Like I said, they're malignant, or whatever the word is, malevolent. They cause problems, Who was it who said that? They're burning the house down just to warm their feet. Where the fuck did I hear that? I watched it just yesterday. It was on some video. Was it one of my peeps, or was it somebody? Anyway. Yeah, they were talking about just, things are getting, pretty bad. The more complex something is, the more prone it is to malfunction. So, that's humanity. And like I said, you think about, back in the days, how things were pretty brutal. It's like these days, people are civil, and shit, but it's still like, it's almost like, why are you still thinking like that? It's like the days of, that shallow yet conclusive, ignorant and self-approved should kind of be gone. I mean, I get, you go through life, you develop kind of a way of going through the world based on, how you feel and how your experiences, whatnot, you kind of mold who you are, but you still have to be logical. Like I have a set, operating system, for lack of a better word, and it won't change. I see the world the way it is. I see people the way it is. I internalize it the way that I do, and that's just not going to change. I am who I am. And there's things that, I haven't experienced and I don't want to, I don't want to experience hood life, shit like that. I mean, I know the game, I know, these how people do shit and how things are kind of different. And I'll save the, trying to explain that, but because I've been in those situations, where it's like you're around, it's like, this is a different culture, this is a different group of people, I have to handle myself differently in a certain way, not too much this way, not too much that way, I just sort of kind of have to be neutral, but not totally neutral, because that in and of itself, people pick up on that, like, okay, this guy's, he's scared, he's timid, he's out of his element, you need to be natural, and you need to flow, but, you need to not bring too much flavor to the table either, because you're dealing with a different buffet. You know what I say? Probably not. So, but, and that's like normal for them, you know what I mean? But there is such a thing, as Stefan Mullenix would say, called universally preferable behavior. So you can have a little bit different this and a little bit different that, and a different perception of the world, but there is, as Stefan Mullenix would say, I don't know if he's still on YouTube, universally preferable behavior. You don't get to hurt me, you don't get to steal my shit, you don't get to just, damage my shit, But anyway, moving on. Humans, man. Like I said, I do understand them. I do get it. And a lot of people don't. So. But, and there's situations, sir, there's nothing I can do right, so. Anyway, I just don't stand a chance. So, what the fuck was I talking about? Seems like I was going to mention, here I am 13 minutes in. I went on this huge fucking digress. I haven't even mentioned what I wanted to mention yet. Yeah, I started talking about what a loser I am. Hey, Katie Boo. Hey, girl. How about you? Hey, boo. I saved that latest picture of you with Fatty McFatfuck because you do different thumbnails and whatnot, and I've got quite a few pictures you saved. Some of them I just look at endearingly, and it feels like I'm floating. And others I hump off to, on occasion. And the latest one on Fatty McFatfuck's page, where you're kind of, laying down there with your head there, it kind of looks like you're peacefully sleeping, and expect a couple things, there'll be times where you wake up to me, like chewing your hair, or licking the back of your head. That'll be a thing. But there'll also be times where, you're facing me, and you'll wake up just open your eyes, and I'll just be there, with my face, like, a foot away from yours, just mad dogging you, just staring at you, not blinking, so, and I won't even say anything. I won't be like, good morning, gorgeous, I'll just be looking at you, and you'll look at me kind of awkwardly for a bit, And you'll kind of lean in and give me a sweet, tender little kiss, with that party mouth of yours. And, I'll just, and, I'll just be looking at you. Still won't say anything. Just mad dogging you. So, it's just how I am. Anyway, I looked up just sort of at random sometimes. I'll type in like panty butts or bikini butts, on the googly boogs or the YouTubes. And I typed in bikini butts, and usually I type in like 1990s bikini butts, because they were better cut back then, proper shaped whale tail, proper size hip strap, pulled up high, narrow in the front, but not too narrow, and wide enough down low to cradle the pussy, especially if she's got nice puff. And if it was full back, you see more, high cut, that where it goes kind of straight up the back of the ass cheek and pulled up high, and but with enough material down low, where it can be wedgified all the way in and all the way up her butt crack, and still have material on either cheek, and the way women's asses are designed, they tend to gobble up panty wear or bikini wear, but back in like the early 90s ish, kind of through the 90s, you saw more of that. But because styles change, so that's the look that I like. But anyway, this one popped up. I'll go ahead and put it in a folder. I'll title it "Haay-you." So you can go check it out so you know what I'm talking about. The front is decent. Pretty good by standards. Could be a little bit better. She doesn't have much puff going on, and it's kind of too narrow down there. And it's pulled up nice and high, but then it turns into like this chain. It's like there is no whale tail. It's non-existent. But her ass kind of reminds me of you. It made me think of you. That's why I saved it, and that's why I'm doing this audio presentation. That's why 17 and a half minutes, I'm just now mentioning it. Like I said, you're welcome. The rest is just a freebie. Just extra gravy on the meat and pie. But, she's one of these kind of more slender types, more firm, smaller ass cheeks, doesn't have much jiggle and a wiggle. But like I said, you can have big ass cheeks and not have jiggle and a wiggle. Or you can have smaller ass cheeks and have jiggle and a wiggle. Or at least up and down movement. But she does, her ass crack only goes like halfway up instead of 3/4, So she doesn't really have jiggle and wiggle or up and down, but her ass cheeks still crease up when she walks. And I suspect that's kind of what your ass looks like based on that video. And I know I sound pathetic, but because I've never seen your ass. But, I've seen how it's shaped and whatnot. But, like I said, I suspect because you're a runner and whatnot, you've kind of got that kind of ass, more firm, not, much jiggle and wiggle, if any, not even really a whole lot of up and down movement, but your cheeks still crease up. So that's that. It just reminded me of you. So when, we're married, that'll be a thing I do on a regular, because, guys are naturally twice as horny as girls, and I'm like 4 times as horny as, you. Just all the time, so that'll be one of the things among many that I do is stand behind you and to the side, have you crease up that ass cheek, and I'll just rub my dick back and forth on that crease where ass meets thigh until I come. And, I won't jack it across the finish line or any of that faggot shit either, It'll be kind of weird, but you can just stand there, you can read a book, watch TV, we can have a conversation. If you want to, you can recite poetry to me or perhaps ASMR. You can do whatever the fuck you want, So, because I'll just be back there sawing. So, pretty girl, pretty girl. Maybe I'll call you today. Yeah, I'll text you.